policy that was put in place by the last government, a special needs policy. I'd like to know if you can give us an indication as to when that policy can be enacted and whether you plan to tweak it or alter it in any way as you are the new minister. And I would also like to know if you can give us an insight, you're the new minister, as to what your priorities are for education. What can we expect from you in this portfolio?
Thank you, Judy. Regarding the special needs education policy, upon taking office, I asked for an update on that specifically. SOAB was conducting a report to identify an implementation roadmap for the policy that was supposed to be completed by the end of December 2024. So I've asked for an update if it has been completed, and then moving forward, we will see what SOAB's roadmap says. In terms of changes to the policy, there are some that I am contemplating, but I have to see how we can do that in a manner that is quick but also effective and efficient. And about priorities, I think I've spoken pretty publicly that my focus is to improve the quality of education, the efficiency of the ministry, but also to restore trust in this ministry. I think the last 4 years have yielded a serious lack of trust in the ministry's capability to protect not just teachers and teaching assistants, but primarily students. That is the feedback that I've gotten from that demographic. And as I've said in my inaugural address, they are the clients of this ministry, so they are indeed my main priority. Further to that, on a topical perspective, literacy and numeracy. Coming from private sector, I've witnessed how our literacy in young persons looking for jobs has declined. I've heard it from my former colleagues in private sector from different areas as well. So that is something that I'm deeply passionate about. And numeracy, around the region, we see that math grades are dropping, especially with CXC, even in countries where we are accustomed of seeing very fantastical passing rates with mathematics, Guyana, Barbados, etc. So also working with the schools to improve those two particular topics is one of my priorities.
Just a quick follow-up, Minister. You said you are contemplating some change to the policy. Can you give us an indication as to what those potential changes are?
I'll give you one of the most,
Thank you.
I think, controversial changes. So it was told to me that initially there was a inclusion for the special needs education policy where these students would be introduced to comprehensive sex education. As the most vulnerable students, they are most at risk for sexual abuse. For example, if you are 16, special needs, cognitively, you may be 6. Physically, you are 16. But I think we need to really face ourselves in the mirror and focus on the reality that it may be one thing physically, but mentally it's another. And that is how you end up in situations where special needs students or former students are being abused and taken advantage of within the community. And it's my priority to prevent that from happening. So I'm hoping to see that we can make an addition to the policy when it comes to that. But of course, that has to have a whole curriculum developed behind it as well. So it's something, like I said, I'm contemplating.
So to some of the statements that you made in particular about GB, you said the loan has been received. Does that mean the money has actually been sent to St. Martin or that it's been allocated? And the government will then need to have an agreement with GB in terms of the purchasing of generators and what the payment terms look like, and if government is going to put conditions on GB. So if you could explain that in a little bit more detail.
Very good.
And one other thing is you mentioned that you're setting up this disaster reserve fund. So from the reflows of the airport. So if you could explain that for the people a little bit more clearly. And are you going to continue with the CRIF insurance, which is the parametric insurance that government has, I guess, funded out of the World Bank money
CRIF you're
in the
talking
past?
about.
The CRIF, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You ask if we have the money already? The answer is yes. We have the money ready in our accounts. That's the first question. The second question is, we get the loan, we have the capita, we have the money on our account, and we are going to make an agreement now with GEBE to for them to be able to purchase the generators. It's going to be in a collaboration with GB, but they're going to be very evident agreements, conditions from government towards GB. And at the end of the day, the idea is not only to rent them, but to make it in a construction of a rent to owe. Because we have to help GEB too, that they paid enough, that at a certain moment they have it, that they can continue to make it a healthy company. So there will be, of course, conditions from the side of government, but we are working at this particular moment on the conditions, because it's quite complicated to guarantee, of course, a good agreement that all parties can adhere to in meeting their obligations in the payback, and especially because it's money of the people we are using. It has to be important that it goes in a transparent way with a lot of check and balances, with, at the end of the day, the bigger aim to make sure that sustainability of energy supply is guaranteed for the people of this country. So we are working now on the conditions, coincidentally now, before we get into the deeper negotiation with GB about the conditions, how we now are going to offer them the money for the purchase of the generators. And even in the phase of the purchasing, also the government will stay involved to make sure that it goes in a transparent way. Using the contabiliteitslandsverordening, for example, is very important. Okay? Thank you. Pardon?
The disaster recovery fund. So sorry.
Yes, for me to explain how that works. Yeah.
And,
so
and
actually,
just for a clarification, GB has issues with the hack, with their billing. Will one of the conditions from government be about improving their financial administration?
Yes, of course, yes. Concerning the reflows, for the disaster reserve fund to build a buffer to be able to deal with the consequences, negative consequences of, for example, hurricane and nature disasters. The whole idea was that we got money from the trust fund. That money we accepted with gratefulness from the Dutch people. And we use that money and we give it out in a loan to the airport for their reconstruction. Because it's in a loan, you have to pay an interest rate in your payback agreement with government. And with that paying back, there is an interest part of it that actually makes, at the end of the day, the money that you loan more than it was originally. And that difference that we gain with the interest part that we make money with of the loan, that part is the one that we are going to put in the disaster reserve fund, but also the loan as such. So if we have borrowed money to the airport, we're going to get the money back, but we're going to get interest on top of it too in all those years that they're paying back. And all that money is going to go in the disaster reserve fund.
SZV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SZV is cardless. Request your My SZV account today and enter the virtual office of SZV. Go to szv.sx and sign up now.
SZV, yeah, your social health insurances.
Over the years, we've had a lot of discussions, especially when it comes to the brandware and the function book, the fire department, as my colleague mentioned. I would like to know, Prime Minister, I would like to add to the question, can you provide an overview of all the vacancies for the brandware, the vacancies that are needed, and also highlight those that are critical, and maybe the reason why they are not filled? Is it budgetary concerns, so that if we need to make any amendments, we can do that? The reason why I ask that is because I also know that within the fire brigade, there are persons that are held back given the fact that they cannot get their promotions for quite a while now. I would like to know, how is the government dealing with those cases? And my second point, through you, Madam Chair Lady, is let me go back to when I was a member of parliament for the first time. And the whole discussion came about with the resettlement. I had my concerns with it in the terms of paying out persons who have occupied land illegally. I expressed those concerns publicly. But sitting in the seat, the agreements were already made prior to me taking office. So I had two choices: continue to fight the fight or continue with what was agreed upon based on the previous administration. I didn't blame the previous administration. I took on the challenge and I did what I had to do. And we paid out those persons. However, in two instances in particular, there were persons that were, in my humble opinion, after my preliminary research, paid out not in the right way. I will not go too deep into it here on the floor, but I know, Prime Minister, you have access to all information that I had access to. And I would like to know, based on those two very clear cases that stood out, if any resolution has been made for the persons that filed complaints via the government and also at the NRPB in terms of getting their payout. So the way you can find it is to check through the complaints, which there weren't many. There were about 2 or 3 complaints. I would like to get an update on where that is concerned. So if you need me to I see you look a little, do you need me to repeat the question, or it's clear to you?
Prime Minister, you want to quickly respond to that?
You're talking about those persons that they paid out in the vicinity?
Yes, the persons that are paid out with the resettlement. So my question is, there were 3 complaints that came in. I would like to know the status of those complaints and if they are being addressed. Because I know for a fact that something didn't go too kosher. Thank you, Madam Chair, and that will be all for now.
Thank
Next round in January. We've been monitoring right now how much gas, because there's a report that we sent as Minister of Finance. I send this report to every council of ministers. I would send, so you can ask Secretariat in the past, I would send a gas report to the council of ministers in terms of every vehicle, how they spend their gas. Every government vehicle has a card, so they don't have a book anymore, they have a card. So every time you could digitally check online how much every single vehicle has been spending. For example, MP Chris Waver mentioned about vehicles being on the front side and so forth. So I established a team of individuals that would check on a monthly basis, and we would know, for example, okay, if there are 10 vehicles in Avrami supposed to be doing inspection, why is L55 at 300 guilders and everybody else at 100 guilders? So then we were able to zoom in and hold accountability. So why has that stopped? We also did that, for example, with the phones. So when we came in and we cut all of the postpaid phones, we made everybody go to prepaid. And that saved us a significant amount of money. And even there, we would use the data there and say, okay, we could cut people lower or increase. So why is this government not continuing with these measures that could, one, save you money, two, hold persons accountable? And that's also things that I don't see in 2025. I don't see simple things that the government can do, and maybe in January, when we come back, we'll see more in-depth stuff from the different ministries. I don't see no kind of measures where we could already start to save money or generate money.
Two quick things. Number one is more topical. What is the update progress on the reconstruction of the St. Martin Library? I believe that it was stated to begin reconstruction in 2025. Another thing, there is much confusion, I would say, and smoke screens being put up about the motion that was passed with the GB relief. And it was just stated that our chair lady, as well as the Democratic Party, did not support the relief for the people, which is very misleading. I don't think that there will be a political party or anyone that is not in favor of relief for the people, but is the manner in which we go about it. We cannot instruct GB what to do. We cannot instruct GB that you must give relief, you must take $5,000, $2,000. That's not the way it works. I believe a more efficient way to handle going about asking GB for relief, which would be also time efficient, is to have them come up with two options. Like, hey, management, what can you guys do based on your current financial situation in 2025? This way, when those options come back to government, we're not looking for a way, but we already have the way via the company. Now it's a matter of, okay, it's either option A or option B, and then we have something more concrete than just throwing out a motion saying, hey, we want this amount of money off, which would be great if it could only be realized in reality. As everybody says, as I have learned, on my first day that a motion is just a wish, and for that wish, I don't see any genie lamp to be rubbed for that wish to come through. So I recommend that the government look into having GB as a company come back and say what is possible based on their financial situation. This way, we have a direct option to move forward. Thank you.
Can you give this parliament a whole overview? Because I too, during the election and after, corresponded with you through you, Madam Chair, Honorable Prime Minister, regarding this whole issue with the Chinese contractors and the NRPB. Can you give the parliament a whole elucidation on the procurement of those funds? Because those funds were given by the Dutch government to the World Bank, and then projects were done up through the NRPB. Can you give the whole overview? Because I also believe that indeed, like in the discussions we had, that the advantages that the Chinese companies have is an unfair advantage to the local companies. But at the end of the day, those funds are on international bids by the World Bank. Those are the comments that I have to make, Madam Chair.
SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXV, yeah, your social health insurances.
It's time for a new brand that is as bold, vibrant, and colorful as the island of St. Martin, with colors drawn from our diversity, cultural heritage, and nature. Our breathtaking beaches, waters, and sun, the majestic brown pelican, our national symbol, the radiant yellow sage, our national flower, the historic border monument signifying the Dutch and French sides, our exciting cruise, yachting, and boating ports, renowned Maho Beach and St. Martin Airport, the hub to the Caribbean. All these parts come together to create the shape of the island of St. Martin. More than a logo. It's a new brand that engages, excites, and will inspire travelers to book. It's time to tell the St. Martin story, to reintroduce travelers to St. Martin, to honor our past, to embrace our present, and shape our future. Our culture and diversity, Dutch and French sides, unrivaled cuisine, twice the nightlife, entertainment, and shopping, cruises, boating, and yachting. Twice the adventure, exploration, and relaxation. Splendid and scenic accommodations. Pinel, Tentamar, and island hopping in the Caribbean. Whatever your taste, St. Martin has more. Experience twice the Caribbean. St. Martin.
Begin this evening with news of a tragedy in St. Andrew. A 5-year-old girl perished in a house fire along Whitehall Avenue close to 3 this afternoon.
A community member says he tried to help, but the smoke was too heavy. Kirk Wright went to the scene.
A crowd converged on the scene in shock that the little girl perished in the fire that destroyed her home at 14 Whitehall Avenue. The cause of the fire is still being investigated. The fire department says they discovered the girl's remains after extinguishing the blaze.
We found her in the bathroom, perished from the inferno. She would have passed based on the smoke inhalation.
A man who recalled hearing the girl's cry for help says his attempts failed because the fire was far too intense to enter the building.
I attempted to help, but I couldn't make it. The smoke, if I went inside to try to help her, myself would knock out as well. So I just couldn't go in.
He says the girl just got home from school and was there with her grandmother when the fire started.
I saw smoke coming from the house, and then I went inside the house. I heard a little child in the house bawling for help. When I went in, beer smoke coming from the house. I tried to help, but I couldn't go any further. I turned back, helped the grandma and the guy on the crutch, and tried to come out of the house. That's it, not more.
So the grandma not able to walk on her own?
She can walk on her own, but she traumatized. She don't even know. She just like she senseless. She don't know what to do. You understand? She don't know what to do.
So you say you heard the child cry?
Yeah, like calling for help. Couldn't help her.
Exactly what you heard her say.
Help, and she scream.
That must have been really horrible to hear, knowing that you're not able to help, right?
I tell you, man, I feel so bad.
The child's heartbroken mother was on the scene but was not in a position to comment. Kirk Wright, TVJ News.